like to start the meeting of the Public Services Subcommittee with myself. Tom, would you sit in for Councilor Gravel? Turco, would you sit in for Councilor Sasslaw? And Masulis Wazanal. Councilor Turco, would you like to talk about the motion you made on the P703-18?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first motion is in regards to the block parties. So if Mr. Labossiere could come up to the podium, just so the council knows in reference to the block parties, I have no intention on making a motion on this tonight. I just wanted to open it up for discussion. I'm aware that you guys set up a lot of block parties in the city of Peabody, and the last thing I want to do is overstep my boundaries on how you run your department. I was just curious as to the manpower that it cost us. I know the street department is very limited in its resources in the summertime. So is there a better way that we could discuss that we could set up for block parties? I in no way want to take that away from residents. But is there a better way that you could see that we can do this?
I haven't gone through a full summer yet working for the city, so I haven't seen a lot of the block parties, but discussing that with some of the people at work at DPS and with yourself, there's been some suggestions that maybe we can put a package together for people down at DPS and they come down and pick it up themselves. There might be a couple different ways we can put some packages together so that, it limits how much that we have to go out to the sites and take care of breaking it down and setting it up.
Thank you, and that's actually what I was thinking. I think we ultimately we'd need to go pick up the items because we pick up the trash, I believe, and we'd like to make sure that we get the items back to us. But as far as the initial setup for the block party, my thought is exactly that, to have DPS place the items at the guard shack or wherever for pickup, either the day before or day of the block party, whichever the resident prefers, and it saves us man hours. Because my understanding is you have 2 men that go out to set up for those block parties, and those come from the street department, which ties up those employees for the day.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. They've been putting 2 people on it, sending them down. So any time we can try to free up some people, that would be better for us, yes.
Okay, on that note, like I said, I'll let you make that decision, but I would like to open it up to the council for discussion for anybody else. Thank you.
Councilor Wazanal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Lavassiere. Do we currently charge to have a block party for residents?
The DPS doesn't charge. I don't know if they charge for the permit when it goes through the community development.
There is no charge, Councilor.
Thank you. Maybe what we could start to do is, if they are unable to pick up, we have a small fee charged for somebody. So let's say if I'm having a block party and I don't have the wherewithal to get a truck to come and pick up barrels and that, I'm charged a little bit of a fee that I can separate and pay with my neighbors. But if I do have the ability to pick up the equipment, then there's no charge. Just, because I agree with you, Councilor Turco. It is manpower. It is difficult to take people off of our job that they're already doing something for the city to set up a block party. So maybe if there is a fee attached to the setup, that might be something to consider. Just a thought. Thank you.
Councilor Masulis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm kind of surprised at this because since I've been on the council going back many years, we've never had a problem with block parties. But if the rules have changed and it gets costly to the city, I do understand that there's got to be a contribution towards it. But the way we've handled block parties in the past, it's kind of a goodwill gesture from the city, to whoever that neighborhood may be. And From the experience I've had, it's probably been what you said, a couple people delivering barrels or chairs or whatever item to the neighborhood that's having the block party. And there's never been a charge for this, and the fact that it has been a gesture from the city saying, that we want to help you out with this block party, I would not be in favor of any charges to them unless the city sees that to be a necessity, which I don't see, but I'd be willing to go along with it if it's going to be a major cost to the city, but I just don't see that. And block parties have never been an issue as long as I've been on the council. So, but whatever decision this council makes, I'm certainly for it. Just want to put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am in agreement with Councilor Mitsoulas that I'd hate to have to start charging people for something that is very festive and patriotic. Usually it's around the 4th of July. And, but I think Councilor Turco had a good suggestion. Let's let Mr. Labossiere get a summer under his belt and see what, if it's very cost prohibitive for you to do it, then we reassess it. But my recommendation is we don't change anything yet, and let Mr. Labossiere figure it out for us and come back to us if needed. Thank you.
Council Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, and I'll address the council. It was never about money, or recouping money from the city in any way. What it was generally about is if, in the maintenance division, obviously you have, I think, 13 or maybe 15 employees, Bob, if I'm correct.
That's correct. And it's, from my understanding, it's just the number of block parties has increased quite a bit over the last couple of years. So maybe we come up with an idea of splitting the difference somewhere where we'll help out with so many block parties a week, and then anyone after that, they'll have to do it on their own, come pick up the material, come up with some sort of happy medium where we'll do what we can, and then after that, if you want it at the same time as some other ones, then you are responsible to come down and pick up the material or something, something to that effect. I mean, we still want to help everybody out. So maybe we can come up with some sort of happy medium.
Correct, and thank you. And that was my only point is, at times, if you have 15 employees in the street division, and 6 of them are on vacation, and this happened to you last year, if I'm not mistaken. You had vacations, you had a couple out on injury, and then you have 2 guys that are assigned to the block parties and there is a busy period for block parties, and we're left with 4 employees to handle potholes, berms, sidewalks, and the city can't possibly run with 4 employees. And, we all know how many times we call DPS to get things done. And they're not wrong in telling us that 2 are assigned to block parties. That was the only intention with this whole discussion.
Council O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman Surest. I'm not a member of this committee, but just wanted to appreciate the opportunity to just add a couple comments. I think initially on the agenda it was just a couple options. One, could residents pick up barrels? So that's a good thing to figure out. But I guess just on the overall approach, it might. I get, certainly I don't think anyone wants to try to make a money, a profit off this. It's a great service for the residents, and we should definitely continue to do it. But maybe if we can have a sense of how many block parties we've done, I don't know, for the last 3 years, and then kind of evaluate, have Mr. Labossiere determine, is that really a burden on his, department, and how is that, as they're increasing, it does 2 people getting taken away, like, Councilor Turco mentioned, to do, I would think, more pressing items. We're getting beat up all the time about conditions of streets and road work that needs to get done. If that's something that they can kind of focus on instead of just delivering, I don't know, barrels or whatnot. Anyways, just some flexibility so we can kind of better assess it. Thank you.
Council Lazo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. my reasoning for the fee structure would actually be a deterrent to use the fee structure. That was my point as far as having a fee, is so that they would find the wherewithal to come pick up the barrels to alleviate somebody to go drop them off. That would really be the only intent. I agree with Councilor Gould. The last thing I want to do is disrupt somebody's ability to have a block party, to have a festival, to have any sort of celebration in any manner. It was more of an encouragement for them to provide the service so that the DPW could do other pressing needs. But I would appreciate you coming back before the council and giving us your feedback with any recommendations that you may have.
Councilor Gould?
Thank you, Council Rosenthal. I didn't mean to pigeonhole you and make it look like you were, let's charge the residents. So I know you weren't looking down that avenue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Manning? Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just as you look forward and back to see how many block parties we have had an increase and what weeks in the year and what months of the year, I mean, I'm sure you could have your scheduling, your staff scheduling, reflect the need for those times so that you won't be shorthanded either. So whether, you know, restricting vacations or limiting the number of vacations certain weeks of the year or something like that. That's done everywhere, so you might want to take a look at that as you move forward. Thank you.
So with that, I will make a motion. I'll make a motion to take this out of committee and give it to Mr. Labossiere to come back to us in a year's time to present his thoughts on whether this policy needs to change or not prior to next summer.
Can I just ask one question before you ask for the motion? I know you haven't been here for the whole the summer, but one of the questions I had, you can ask your guys, is that when the barrels get dropped off, how many of them actually come back full? Right? Again, I'm not looking for the answer, but I'm wondering that, you know, if there's a service that we could provide, that they come and pick up the trash, right? If people are able to use large trash bags themselves to be dumped, would that cut down on the service? Because in my neighborhood, we had a couple, and we never used nearly half of the barrels that was dropped off. So just food for thought, maybe you can get question that. So Councilor Turco, you want to make your motion?
So on the motion to give it to Mr. Labossiere in hopes that he'll come back to us prior to not this summer, the following summer, with some hard numbers of how many block parties the city does and how to make possible changes to the block party policy.
Okay, on the motion, Gould.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you want to do a roll? You want to do it? Go ahead. I'm looking for a new job.
Councilors Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I didn't see his face. Councilor Turco, you want to bring up the next?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask Mr. Delp to come up to the podium, and I'll let Mr. Delp do his own explanation, but briefly, I just want to say I met Mr. Delp, Bill, I don't know, three and a half years ago. We had a slight water issue with some running water in some of the storm drains that was rectified shortly thereafter, and then through meeting Mr. Delp, he then further explained the flooding issues which occur at Granite Road and Granite Road Extension and Mountain Terrace to me. After the August storms of this summer, Councilor Gould, the mayor, and I went and visited with Mr. Labossiere visited with Mr. Delp to look at some possible mitigation packages that we may do to help alleviate that. At this point, I do believe the mayor has a plan for that, and maybe Mr. Labossiere can address that. But Mr. Delp has asked that he can present to this council the issues that he's been facing for upwards of 3 or 4 decades. So, Bill, be my guest.
My name's William Dell. I'm a lifelong resident of Peabody, former employee of the city. I taught auto repair at the vocational school for 30 years. And we've had this issue, and I have documentation and papers in there from 1974, articles in the newspaper when we were getting flooded. Mr. Terigian was our counselor at the time. They addressed the issue and did some corrections. Since that time, it was good for about 20 years. Since then, they've done Granite Road extension. After that, I got a presentation that'll show you what we're living with down there. Property was sold and Granite Road extension was built. There was no thought or planning put into the water runoff. This development changed the volume of water in the brook and took away the ability for the water draining from the hills to disperse into open land. This terrain map shows where the water originates from that feeds the brook. Pre-1950, there was an open brook from the base of the hills. This brook flowed through Mr. Cavello's property, down Mountain Terrace, across Granite Road, and into the wetlands between Rockaway Road and Glendale Avenue. The lines show where the open brook was. In the 1950s, houses were built on Mountain Terrace and Granite Road. At that time, the brook was put into an 18-inch pipe. This pipe is located at the rear of 7 Mountain Terrace. It runs down under Mountain Terrace, across under Granite Road, under the properties of 15 and 13 Granite Road and 38 Rockaway Road. It ended up at the rear of 13 Granite Road, where it continued as an open brook into the wetlands. This picture shows the open brook in blue and the 18-inch pipe in violet. In the 1960s and 70s, there was road flooding with heavy rains. The city installed additional catch basins on Granite Road and increased the pipe size from Granite Road to the wetlands with a 30-inch pipe. The catch basins were connected to this new pipe as well as the 18-inch pipe from the brook coming from Mountain Terrace. This solved the flooding issues for the next 20-plus years. This picture shows the open brook in blue, the 18-inch pipe in violet, and the 30-inch pipe in green. This picture shows the lots that are on Granite Road extension. They once belonged to Mr. Cavello. This was open land where the brook flowed and where the hills drained. At times of heavy rains, the brook would overflow into this open land where it would disperse and it be absorbed into the ground. It would not be a problem for Granite Road. These pictures are of Granite Road extension and the cul-de-sac. Granite Road extension has 6 homes. All the lots are elevated, directing the water behind the homes into the brook. This is the area where the hills drained and the brook would overflow. Granite Road extension has quite a grade. Times of heavy rains, the water flows over the 3 catch basins on Granite Road extension and not into them. This is the entrance to the 18-inch pipe. The picture on the left shows the entrance. It is 6 feet below grade. The picture on the right shows the 18-inch pipe up close. There are bars in front to prevent large debris, but notice the sand, gravel, and debris at the lower portion of the pipe. The DPW sends a crew out every time rain is predicted to clear this pipe. The picture on the left shows the 30-inch discharge pipe at the rear of 13 Granite Road. The picture on the right shows debris carried down by the water, causing a dam in the brook. The picture on the left is the house at 7 Mountain Terrace. At the back of the driveway at the tree line is where the brook enters the 18-inch pipe. The pipe goes under the driveway to Mountain Terrace. The picture on the right shows the brook overflowing the pipe and following its path to the wetlands, flooding Mountain Terrace and Granite Road. It has no other place to go since Granite Road Extension subdivision was done.
This is the view on Mountain Terrace right now.
These pictures were taken from 13 Granite Road, looking towards the end of Granite Road. This is where the water from Granite Road, Mountain Terrace, Rockway Road, Granite Road Extension, Hillside Avenue, and all the water from the hills and the brook drain to. The present drains and pipe for the brook and the hills runoff can no longer handle the volume of water and the rate of flow that Granite Road Extension has caused. These pictures show the water flowing down Granite Road. The water is coming from Granite Road on the left side of the street and from Hillside Avenue on the right side of the street. These pictures are of 15 Granite Road. In the picture on the right, there would be 3 feet of water in the street. There is one catch basin at the base of the tree. The picture on the left shows the fence at rear of 15 Granite Road. The White House in the distance is 38 Rockway Road, and the garage is at 13 Granite Road. The picture on the right is the backyard of 13 Granite Road. There are 3 sections of stockade fence opened up to allow water flow. The garden in the picture is on an elevated portion of the yard. In these pictures is where the 30-inch pipe is buried. Picture on the left was taken while raining. The picture on the right was after the rain had stopped. Notice the white water at the end of Granite Road. This is caused by the water coming down from Mountain Terrace from the brook. This was a previous storm. This was also a previous storm. I have lived at 13 Granite Road for the past 51 years, living and fighting these water problems. I have observed transition from Granite Road continuous flooding, seen great improvements in the 70s to total disaster after Granite Road Extension. Seeing what worked in the past, in my opinion, the cure for the problem would be the following. A larger pipe from the brook entrance to its discharge in the wetland, installing at the entrance to the pipe some type of tank or diverter to keep debris from entering and plugging the pipe. Additional catch basins, one in front of 16 Granite Road with a curb and cutout to prevent leaves from plugging up the grates on the catch basin. People have to tend these catch basins day and night in the fall to keep them clear. 2 additional catch basins at 15 Granite Road with curbs and cutouts. A curb and cutout at the existing catch basin at 15 Granite Road. Yearly maintenance of the brooks and culverts, clearing sand, gravel, and debris from winter runoff. In the 1960s and 70s, the city would hire summer help, high school students. They cleared brooks and culverts citywide. I ask that you please consider these suggestions for solving the water problems on Granite Road. It affects many people. Residents cannot get to and from their homes when the street is flooded. People have to stay at the catch basins day and night to keep them clear of debris, plus the repair of properties after the floods. I would like to offer an additional suggestion for consideration. The culverts on Troy Street and Fairview Avenue are too small. There are times when the wetlands overflow across Fairview Avenue into Brown's Pond. It was because the culverts cannot handle the volume of water. 2 years ago, they repaired the sidewalks in Lakeshore Park. They leveled the sidewalk on Fairview Avenue, raising it. This will raise the water level in the wetland, causing problems for all that live around this wetland. Enlarging the culverts on Troy Street and Fairview Avenue will allow the water to escape into the pond. This will keep the wetlands at a safe level for all the homes in the area around it.
Thank you, Mr. Delp. I did just want to mention that Mrs. Delp, Jeannie, is in the audience, and also the Williams, which are Bill Delp's next-door neighbors. And the reason I mention that is when I first met these people, this is like nothing you've ever seen. These people have taken care of this themselves in shifts for years with very little. They have had some help from the city, but very little help from the city. So at this point, I would like to see if we could give Mr. Delp some assistance. And Bill, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to get Bob Labossiere up here to see what his thoughts on your presentation are.
I don't disagree with anything he showed you. I went up there with Councilor Turco and the mayor. We met with the neighbors after that storm. Over the summer, I'd been working for the city for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I was overwhelmed with the amount of water that was coming down. If there's any place in the city that needs some work done, it should be this area. We do have some ideas. The mayor and I have talked about this situation over the last couple months, and there's a capital budget coming forward that's going to include quite a bit of money for this situation. So I would hope that the council would be approval of that. We would love to help out these neighbors and get some work done up in that area.
Thank you, Bob. And Mr. Delp, do you have anything else to say that you'd like to say to the council? And with that, I could open it up to the council.
Councilor Gould.
Mr. Delp, are you available for PowerPoint presentations? Wow, you good? You're good? I was up there with Mr. Labossiere, the Delps, the Williamses, Councilor Turco, and the mayor, and I just could not believe the water. I saw videos of it the day of, and then to actually see the amount of water the next day, I think it was the next day, or maybe a couple days after, the amount of water that was in your backyard, in the fence that you put on a hinge so that the water didn't destroy the fence. You actually, this gentleman literally hinged the bottom half of his fence so that the water wouldn't crush the fence and allow for free movement of the water. But you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to be put through that. I know my friend Rick and Patty, they struggle constantly with water in their basement, and it's all coming because of what you identified. So, as Mr. Labossiere said, we'll do everything we can to fix that, and I know the mayor has it in the capital budget, so thank you for your help here, Mr.
We
Delp.
appreciate anything that can be done.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A picture tells 1,000 words. I mean, I couldn't believe what I just saw. And I've got to apologize to Bill. Bill's a classmate of mine. Him and I went to school together. And we meet once a month. Our class meets at Brothers in Danvers. We've been doing that for 3 years. And Bill has mentioned this before to me. But you know something? When you hear something, you can't visualize it. And I think I've kind of put it aside. And I apologize to you, Bill, because you've mentioned it to me before. But you did the right thing. You went to John Turco and Tom Gould because they're right on top of it. And you guys, congratulations for taking the seriousness of this and bringing it before this council. And, you know, what I saw in this picture was almost like watching Walnut Street and Foster Street. It was really almost that bad. So I am very supportive of looking for the funds to solve this problem, and I'm sure Councilor Turco is going to stay on top of it and get those funds too. So moved. Thank you.
Councilor Arsenault.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Delp, thank you very much for this presentation. This was pretty impressive. I knew that there was a flooding issue since growing up there, it never looked like that, that's for sure. So I appreciate this. This is something that we need to get a grapple on pretty quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on the committee. Appreciate you letting me comment. Mr. Delp, fantastic presentation. It really informative, and as Councilor Matsoulis points out, it really brings the point home. When this reaches the full council, you can expect my support in that, and I just, in a broader sense, to you and to Mr. Labossiere, who's here, this is just another example of something that highlights the problems that we're going to face increasingly with more frequent and intense storms. We know this is happening as a function of climate change, and the more we can proactively address these problems, the better off we're all going to be. And it really reinforces, I think, the point that we were provided by the municipal vulnerability program when we had that presentation, and the need to protect the wetland conservancy districts and the flood boundary districts so that we can maintain as much storage capacity for water as possible, because it's all got to go someplace. So when we move it out of your area, it potentially ends up someplace else. So we need to look at we obviously need to look at the solution at the micro level as it seriously impacts that neighborhood, but we also need to look at it at the macro level in terms of its impact on the city overall. So again, I thank you very much for the excellent illustration of that problem, and look forward to working with the council and DPS to find some solutions here going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to say it again, Mr. Delp, thank you. But Councilor Turco didn't let this die. Councilor Turco's been on this from the day it happened, and he's been talking about it every week since then. So hats off, Councilor Turco. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I had one thing. Bob, with being recognized, and again, the presentation, fabulous. I think all of our jaws just dropped when we saw the pictures. I know mine did. I know you're saying there's a plan coming up within the budget, but what are you doing now to limit the amount of water to come down until that major project gets done?
Other than cleaning the inlets and outlets of the piping, there's not a lot we can do. We've talked to some of the neighbors. We've changed one of the manholes that was in the front yard over to a grate. We've, got to keep looking at the outlets. I know that we went in and we got some debris out of the brook, the pond in the back, to lower the brook down a little bit so that we have a little more flood storage there. But until we do some major changes to some pipe sizes, especially downstream of that pond, there's a restriction there on the outlet. There's not a lot we can do other than keep those waterways open.
And the mayor has indicated to you that he's going to be looking to appropriate funds for that. Is there stuff that you can start looking at, ordering, anything, so when the ink is dry on that budget, you can start working immediately?
There's nothing I can do without an appropriation, so we don't have money right now to go out and purchase anything or to buy anything. I mean, it's going to be a large amount of money, so I don't have the appropriations now to start with that.
But the plans are there? You already know what you need to do?
No, we don't know exactly what the size of the pipes and stuff, but we will have someone on board to start right away to do the upstream watershed analysis to determine that.
I'm just looking, I'm sure Councilor Turco is feeling the same thing, is that if there's stuff that we can do with the anticipation of this being funded, that we do everything we can to, with the spring is coming, I'm sure that's when it gets its worst too. So, I know if you're on it, and again, as Councilor Gould said with Turco, that I'm sure you're focusing on it. And I just feel so bad that you folks are out there, doing this every day. I've had it done in my street, my home, with the major flooding, and I know how exhausting it is, emotionally and physically. And I feel very bad for you, and I would like to do whatever this council can do to get this done fixed once for all.
Wasn't quite so bad when I was in my 30s.
A little harder and harder.
I can tell you that our plan is going to include a lot more than what he had, what his suggestions were, yeah.
Council Turkle, did you want to make a motion?
No motion required. You could report out on it, but I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Delp and Mr. and Mrs. Williams for your patience with the whole thing. I do believe the mayor reached out to you and that he's going to present that capital budget on the 14th of March. So you guys are more than welcome to come back for that presentation also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I know the meeting is scheduled to be done, but once we have Bob here, I just had one other agenda item if I'd like to bring up, if you don't, councilors don't mind. Council Director, I spoke to you once before about having a portal on the website, PBD website, for people to be able to report roads or sidewalks or snowbanks or such of that. So at real time, the men and women who are out there doing the work can see where the areas of residents have issues if they're not able to get a hold of any of the councilors. And at some points, I know that our streets may border Councilor 4 and 5 and 2 and 4 and 2 and 3 and throughout the whole city, that you may get multiple calls for the same area by multiple councilors. And we don't know that, who they're calling and things of that nature. So is there a way that we can have a portal set up that residents can actually report a issue with snow removal right then and there, and you folks can see it immediately and may have vehicles out in that area, and for the assistant director, who's usually on the storms, can react quickly to that?
We can certainly add that feature to the website. Anything to make it easier for the public to get a hold of us would be perfectly fine by us. We do have a phone that's manned 24/7 during our storms. So, you know, they're more than welcome to call our dispatch line, and that immediately goes out, or if it's easier for them because they can't make a phone call or they're using their phone, if they want to do it via web-based, I'm open to that as well. I can easily talk to IT and have them set up a button on the website to be able to do that.
I think that would be helpful, especially, hopefully, after tonight, you know, the going into March is like a lamb and no more like a lion, that we can able to give another resources to the councilors and to the residents about where there might be areas of difficulty with the snow.
Sure, we can do
Great.
that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else? Not like to adjourn.
So moved.